I'm back online, and I can't tell if anyone else is here yet. I'm back up. I apologize you guys for interrupting this. It's far too easy to press one little button with your mouse. I was fading out, and I need to be able to see my screen. Sorry about that. Thank you for coming back to me. Okay, so personal power. Internally, those systems, the systems of personal power, have to do with the pure desire for life and for growth, for better. And even if you look at a little baby, they are immediately curious. I think that that's one of the drivers of the healthiest people is we're curious. We want to know more. We want to perceive more. And this is the enthusiasm, the power that drives us. And that is our personal point of willpower, of the decision, the desire, the will to do something or to be something. So one of the things that's necessary when we're connected with this, and of course we are, even when we're born, is to know the will and then to learn the restraint, which means to in some way alter the movement of that power by holding it and letting it go. It's as simple as that. Hanging on and letting go. And doing that when we decide, not when somebody else decides. So holding on and letting go. That's the purest foundation of using your personal power. So how we choose the restraint and the forward motion, that's founded in if we plan and think first, then we've already decided how much we're going to hang on to what, how much we're going to let go of what, how much we're going to move towards something or to push something away. So our achievement, our success depends on how we wield this energy that we have. And the energy that we have really and truly starts with our mind. So that means our decision-making ability. And I love it when adults nowadays, parents nowadays, understand that empowerment of a child's mind is as early as possible, and it's very soon after a child is born. You give a child choices. And that means that they make up their mind. They begin the decision-making process of this or this, this. And that, dear hearts, is the point of power. And the more adroit we get at not only making the decision, but deciding that we're going to make the decision. So we step one step back, noticing that we have a decision to make, and watch ourselves make the decision, rather than just be in the midst of making the decision. Does that make sense? That's the mature mind, where we can go into what we call sometimes the observer mode or the witness mode. And some of you have heard me teach this before. It's like you're up there in the corner of the room and you're looking through the lens of an observance, a surveillance camera, and you're watching yourself down there, and you're witnessing yourself in the midst of needing to make a decision. That, dears, is the point of real power. That point where we stop. First you have to stop and not be just in the flow or doing whatever somebody else says you're doing, but you stop. Stop mentally and notice and say, this, that. And at that point, when you say either stop or then this or that, and you say either yes or no, or I'm going to wait for more information and then I'll say yes or no. That is the point where it all begins. when we master ourselves, we never get to that point we never have to, how do I say, be sabotaging ourselves with the unawareness of the choices, because we're so sensitive and so aware of the choices that we can make. And that means the choices of what we're going to focus our mind on, what we're going to string together in terms of the words and the intention and the production of how we communicate and express ourselves, and then what kind of behaviors we're going to choose, we're going to decide to move on, to use. So do you see that this is part of that, that sense of desire and restraint? Does that make sense? Any questions about that? And thank you for finding me again, for tuning in again after I had to reboot. Thank you so much. So this we want to be practical, because we want it. We want this decision-making process, this sense of our personal power, we want it to be effective. We don't want to just kind of pour it down the drain or down the garbage disposal. We want to hold and use our intention, our thoughts, our words, our powers, our mental budget for something that's valuable, something that we care about. And what you care about and what other people care about may be slightly different. And we want you to have the freedom to place your power on things that you care about. Does that make sense? Any questions? Any thoughts about how you are in connection with your self-observation and your decisions in terms of how you're going to think, speak, and behave? So that's under the column number 13, which is you developing your ability to quote unquote spend your mental budget where you want it to be spent. I like to think of the mental budget as a pie chart, and sometimes I illustrate it that way, where I divide it into 3 chunks. You may have divided into more than that, but because about 1/3 of our day needs to be sleep and rest. Otherwise our bodies won't function and do what we need them to do. And then about 1/3 of our day really needs to be devoted to our day-to-day responsibilities, taking care of whatever it is that we need to do to be responsible for our person, our health, our paycheck, our car payment, the orderliness of our environment. And then about 1/3 of our day is how I think of as discretionary. That you have a discretionary mental budget, just like you have, if you're good with money, you save money, and that's for your discretion, which means whatever it is that you decide, not somebody else, not the IRS, not your mortgage broker, but what you decide that you want to spend your money on. I would like you to think about this discretionary mental budget, because there's certain hours in the day where you have a choice about where you want to focus the beam of your mind, whether it's a soft, caring, grateful beam, or a laser-like beam of saying, no, I'm going to do something and change that because I don't like it. Or that creative in the flow beam where it's delicious and irresistible, and you've got this creative idea and you're unfolding it, expressing it, making it happen. So we want you to be in charge of your mind so that when you have discretionary time, you know how you want to spend your thought process. So Is that something that you are ordinarily aware of? I'd like to hear from you, those of you who are tuned in, about how you decide to spend your mental budget. And I know that sometimes it's pretty utilitarian, when you're doing a project for work, or you're focusing on doing something for um, your schoolwork, or brushing your teeth, whatever it is, your mind is engaged in that activity. But there are times in the day, and some of them are always there, like, for example, your commute time when you're driving. You have a choice on how you spend your mental budget while you're driving. Yes, you're paying attention to the traffic and being safe, but you and I know that sometimes your mind goes off and it's like, how did I get here? Where was my mind? You have a decision to make, or not, about how creatively you use your thought process during those times. I think about it as those times when we can do walking meditation, when you're on a walk, when you're taking a shower, when you're cleaning, when you're mowing the lawn, those repetitive tasks that we need to take care of, and yet our mind doesn't have to be fully focused on the task. We therefore have some discretionary time, and we can use it in any way, just kind of relaxing your mind, or have it being creative, or planning a surprise, or inventing something new for something you care about. There are those hours of the day when we choose. And some of us choose, and I don't know that I'm in favor of it, too many hours where somebody else is driving your mind, such as television and video games, movies, things where our mind is being told what to do by someone outside of ourselves. And I think that this does indeed contribute to the problems that we're having today with ADD, attention deficit disorder, because we haven't been trained to decide where to focus our mind, rather than we watch so many things, or we're into so many activities where we were a spectator rather than a participant. And that our thoughts, our eyes, our ears, our senses are being absorbed by something that somebody else is doing. And I am sad and concerned about that, because we have thousands of hours in a year that are a waste, really, of the wonders that we have inside ourselves. Any thoughts about that, dears? Any questions? Any ways that you see yourself maybe misspending your mental budget? Or is it just interesting? Is this hanging true for you? Does it make sense? Just check in with me and let me know if this is valuable, if it's making sense, if you have questions about it. Thank you for tuning in. So that's number 13, thinking about your personal power. What is it inside yourself you want to develop more about your ability to think things through, to plan? And oftentimes, the easiest avenue, the best concrete approach to beginning to train your mind is using either something somebody else has written and you read it, or images that you want to look at, or writing things down, which is why when we want to plan our goals, we want to write them down. And it begins with brainstorming, where you just write down all the things that are interesting to you, or worry you, or are on your mind. The very first thing in terms of putting something in this column here, where you're mastering your internal system, is you and pen and paper. That's why I created this study guide, because it's asking you to think about, what is it that I do, and what is it that I spend too much time on? What would I like to do? Oh, good. I've got a comment here. Thank you so much, dear. It feels sometimes like I don't have a lot of control over my mental budget. I have so little free time to think about it. Yes, not uncommon, is it? And sometimes, some days I realize the only free time I have is when I'm in the shower. And even then, I'm thinking about the clients I'm going to see when I get to my office. Or those 10 to 20 minutes before I fall asleep at night where I'm reading or making some notes. And I have a choice then. And of course, I try to give myself a few minutes before I go to sleep at night to read something that I decide I want to feed in my mind. And so sometimes it is very minimal. And yet, if we don't plan, sometime taking a break, sometime taking a Sabbath, a Sunday, a day off or an hour off or some time off, we just never get to it, do we? And I know that there are people that are so busy with their marriage, their home, their children, rightfully so, that the only way to get free time for yourself is early in the morning, getting up a little earlier than everybody else when the house is still quiet. And I know many people who they treasure those moments in the morning. Before anybody else gets up, they get up a half hour or an hour earlier, make themselves a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and sit with their journal book or their pad and pen and think through or read inspirational writings. That's sometimes the only option people have. Let's see. I have recently stopped watching TV because I feel that it does steal so much of the little free time that I have. I feel like I have more control over my life since doing so. Oh my gosh. I'd like to give you a prize. That's fabulous. How long ago did you decide to stop watching so much TV? Did you stop watching completely, or do you still have a little bit? And that you already feel like you have more control over your life? Indeed, dear. And so often, every once in a while, Jack and I will kind of flick through the channels just to see what's there, because we ordinarily don't watch network TV. And I have to be frank with you, there's usually nothing that's sufficiently intelligent, high quality, or relevant to me that's worth my time to watch it. And it makes me sad and concerned, because if it's not worth my time, then I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't think it would be worth it for anybody else either. So I congratulate you for turning off the TV. And some people get into the habit of where they have the TV on all the time or video games on all the time. And and they're uncomfortable when it's not on. And that's just a habit that we can change. But you're absolutely right. And even then, when people don't watch TV, they still can have a life that's too full. Especially if you have children of various ages, where you really want to be a great parent. And then, and you have a job, and by the time you hit the hay, you're just and probably sleep deprived. I've actually mentioned to someone who was like that sometimes the only place you can get a little respite, because legally we're supposed to take breaks at work if you have a job. You're legally required to take a 15-minute break in the morning and in the afternoon, and to take a lunch break. And it's your discretion how you spend those breaks, and that's lunchtime. And it's very easy. I'll never forget, I was in a corporate job at one point, and I was in a large building. It was a lot of insurance people and other people, and they had a lunchroom on the bottom floor, and most of the employees were overweight, unhealthy, kind of low energy, almost depressed, and some of them were depressed, I could tell. And they would just have lunch in the lunchroom every day. They wouldn't even leave their building. And what I did was I always had a book with me. I usually do. Either a book to read or to write in. And I would go to the park closest to the building where there was grass and a little stream. And I would go there and eat my sandwich by the stream and read or write. There's nobody else there. And all those people in that cafeteria, they had a choice, and so did I. So sometimes I tell people the only place where you can actually just stop and get a breath is in the stall in the restroom where nobody's kind of in your face or demanding your time and energy. It's up to you. I want you to think about there are two categories of people that always have enough time to get a break. It's people who smoke because they're addicted to smoking, which means it takes time, which means they get out of the building to do that. They do get a break, usually with other smokers. And there are also people who will always have time to do something, to take a break, and that's lovers, people who have fallen in love and they're having this wonderful love affair in the beginning of learning each other. They always have time to get away in some way and talk with each other or see each other. So if it's a big priority, meaning a bad habit like an addiction, or if you're fallen in love, we do find the time to have some discretionary mental time. So think about that one. It means that we care deeply about something. I'm not really going to recommend you caring deeply about your bad habits. As a matter of fact, partly tonight I would like you to think about your bad habits and how you could be using that time better. And think about people who are in love and how they squeeze out little 10-minute, 20-minute, half-hour sections of being together, and that it's because they care so deeply. And if you are spending your mental budget on things that don't quite make it for you, then you don't have the energy to squeeze out time to get them done. And that says that perhaps there are some things in your life that are missing, higher quality things for you. So let's look at the middle column, and that's number 14, your knowledge, abilities, skills, good habits, goals, creativity, desires, action, imagining, persistence, self-discipline, decisiveness. These are things that you develop internally. And we begin to develop these very young. And that's one of the reasons why I asked you to suspend judgment in the beginning, because these are developed by being in the milieu of your parents, your family, your friends, your school. And most of us have said, I said I'd never talk like that the way my dad did to me when and here I am. Because we are influenced and we are patterned from whatever it is that we encountered. And now as adults, we have a decision. What is it that I'm going to decide to encounter in my life? Because whatever it is that's here is going to influence me. How do I spend my mental budget? And research just within the last year says that our physical health and our weight is generally an average reflection of the 5 people we're closest to. So whatever 5 people you spend most of your time with, you're going to be so influenced by them that your behavior, your thoughts, your words are an average of theirs. And so this is one of the hardest things in choosing your discretionary time. There are probably people that you've encountered that are a step ahead of you or 20 steps ahead of you, and you're wishing you could kind of hang out with them or be social with them or professional with them and learn from them. Feel what it's like to be farther down the road than you are. And then there are also those people who are frankly dragging you back, holding you back, keeping you down. And so often we have a sense of, when we don't have strong emotional intelligence, we run our lives out of bad feelings such as guilt or shame or obligation or caretaking. And we don't plan to make those decisions about spending our time with the high quality people who are building our personal power, and we continue to let those people who are draining our personal power continue to influence our lives, and we spend part of our discretionary budget, our mental budget, with things that are not the high quality. It's like instead of eating fine, healthy, nourishing food, letting yourself just survive on the crumbs of junk food. So is this helping you think about looking at the perspective of your life? So we want you to develop now and decide to develop your knowledge, your abilities, your skills, your good habits, your goals, your creativity, how you act. That's not going to happen unless you decide. You decide where you're going to spend your mental budget. And the fastest way is available and easy to all of us. It's writing it down. It's as simple as that. Sometimes it's hard to hold to writing down our goals, but sometimes it doesn't matter. Just have them written down. Like I mentioned a couple of Red Rooms ago, I wrote down my goals. 7 years later, even though I hadn't seen them for 7 years, I'd achieved most of them. So we set that intention. And then we don't have to be doctrinaire and structured and successful every day of our lives and holding ourselves to be self-disciplined. We can just creatively hold in our mind, this is who I want to be and this is what I want. So however it is that your style is, be aware of that and be accepting and kind of easy in the saddle about who you are, unless you see yourself failing and feeling badly, sabotaging. So writing things down, and I've coached people, if you're having a hard time with this, dears, give yourself the tools. I've got books and papers all around me. If you look at this bookshelf, it's just full. Whoops, something fell on the floor. I've got papers and books and materials everywhere, always have had. And of course, I've got now my calendar is on my computer. It used to be written down. So I have systems of how I write things down. You need to have those and kind of like them. Make them the way you want them. The pens that you like, the writing places that you have that you really enjoy, whether it's small things or large things. I think I've shown you before. I always have handy with me in my purse a little book. Because if I have good ideas and I write them down, more good ideas will come to me, and my little books keep getting filled. I actually keep them very close to me because they're kind of like little jewels. There's one of them that's full. I think I showed you my last one. It's full. So I have places to write down and that's not an organized thing at all. I do have other organized places to write things down, and my computer is one of them. And of course, then journal books are another. Legal pads. I know Jack always has to have legal pads wherever he's sitting because thank God I'm married to a man who spends his discretionary mental budget with the utmost of wisdom. And I admire him greatly because he is one of those people who is very much invested in working hard and playing hard, and very good at taking breaks that are high quality. Let's see here. We got another comment. Yeah, Tony Robbins does a goal-setting workshop in his program. Everything I ever wrote down, most items came to life. Yes! Isn't Tony Robbins great? His materials are substantial, meaningful, powerful, and fabulous. He's one of the legendary figures of our time. I was fortunate enough to spend a week with his Date with Destiny a couple of years ago, and I couldn't find anything but superlatives to say about his work. Yep, he got you to write down your goals. Bravo. And so keep doing it. And of course, also, I mentioned to you last week about, where did I put it? I showed you how I wrote down I made a book of my goals, which is pictures, because I'm very visual. And I respond just as well, even more so, to photographs and images and drawings and pictures than I do to words, although I love both. And so I use both. Be aware and caring about what you use. Use what works for you, dears. So that's about you mastering yourself. Now, we've got 15 minutes left. And let's go to the third column. And then I'm going to share with you some of my suggestions to kind of just get you thinking about possibilities. And it's in my lifestyle design guide. Here's some just little prompts. So number 15, the third column, this is how you give these abilities to the world, your mission, your service, your contribution. It's maybe your work, it may be your volunteer activities. So number 15 says mission, works, career, career success, your achievement, your accomplishments, your arts, your effectiveness, your inventions, your creations, the things that you do that the world can see, the things that you've produced that are out here for others to benefit by, through, with. The Red Room is one of my works that I love to create because of what I've developed inside of myself. So what are your works that you love to give to the world? And are you able, where you are, to do that enough? I know that right now in these times, there are some people who aren't in the careers that they want. And maybe they've had to find a job in the times where companies are downsizing, and you have to find a job where you're not using your best talents or the talents that you want to use. And that can bring you down. It can influence you and damp you down, because what of course we want to be doing is our personal power is using our best, giving our best to the world. So that means that emotionally intelligent people handle that, and they take care of themselves. And you know people like this. I'll never forget a gentleman that I met. He worked in at a help desk in a telecom company. So mostly what he did was kind of hold the phone and hear the complaints and handle people's frustration, sadness, outrage, whatever it was, and take care of the problems. Now, the people in that department, I was there because I was teaching stress management. Some of the time people were off on sick leave for 3 months or even a year because of the hammering that they were taking, and they didn't know how to handle themselves with emotional intelligence. And obviously, they weren't passionate about what they were doing. This gentleman had great emotional intelligence and wisdom, and he solved the problems that he could and didn't make a big deal about the ones that he couldn't immediately solve. He'd take the steps intelligently to do what needed to be done. And his passion was fishing. And he did have a long commute to the office. It was over an hour. And he didn't mind at all, because when he went home to his bass boat and his house by the lake. So he wasn't a professional fishing guide or a TV personality teaching about fishing, but he was doing it anyway. So this is one of the ways to use your personal power and wield it artfully. Know what it is that you are passionate about and you want to give the world. And sculpt your life, sculpt your time, use that discretionary time to do what's meaningful to you. And then be grateful for your job. This man, his job, he did his job well. He liked doing his job. He was really good at it. He helped out the juniors that didn't handle it very well. He's kind of like a Santa Claus, you know? And it wasn't his mission in life to do that job, but he was grateful for it and he did it really well. So, can you handle yourself that adroitly, that skillfully? Well, what you have, you do well and you're grateful for it. I'll never forget encountering someone who worked on an assembly line. This woman she came to me because she wanted just to be sure. She was planning a marriage. It was her second marriage. She had a child. And she was the crew boss on a certain assembly line. And it wasn't her mission in life. As a matter of fact, she was a gardener. And she lived, again, she had a commute, and she had a fabulous garden and a cottage that she adored with a porch swing and such. That was her joy in life. But she loved her work. Not because of the work, because it was just boring work. It was doing a responsible thing. She loved her work because she loved the people. And of course, you and I would put her in charge of the crew because she created it as her neighborhood. Whoever was in her crew, it was a neighborhood. It was neighbors. It was friends. It was people that worked together, took care of each other, listened to each other. She found a way to spend her mental budget positively. So this mission, works, career, your success, your achievements, your accomplishments, your arts, your effectiveness, if you're the personal power part of that is spending your mental budget and therefore deciding that this is what you want to do. And once you decide it's your decision, you can invest in that rather than be frustrated by it or pull back from it or be resentful in some way. So when you decide, make sure that you decide and that it's not somebody else. And if you're in a position where somebody else decided, then set your goals, set your plans. Because personal power comes with that point focus of saying, is it this or this? No, yes. And then watching myself say, I have a decision to make here. Actually, I have more than 2 choices. I probably have 5. And I'm going to think about these for a while because there's no urgency on making this choice. And that brings us to that phrase that I used in the beginning, which is about a complex perspective. Being able to think not in a black and white manner where it's just yes or no. Think in a complex perspective where you can see the dilemma and the gradations of what to do, how to spend your mental budget, what choices you have. I see I don't have 2 choices. I have several choices. And how much time do I have? How many resources do I have? And can I consider this? Can I consult someone about perspectives beyond what I know? If we take a complex perspective, we're thinking with true wisdom rather than just knee-jerk or pure logic. We then become creative. We start using our imagination. We start using our grace, our art, our color for life. So a complex perspective is going to give you a richer life rather than just this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing, which is very stiff. Does that make sense to you guys? So bottom line is how you spend your mental budget, because that's going to determine your bad habits. And do you remember your bad habits, like whatever it is that's a bad habit, and smoking is an easy one to point to, of course. How much of your mental budget goes down the drain on that one? Because that's what determines your life. Who the people are that you hang out with because you smoke, the things that you don't do because you smoke. So your restraint, your ability to hang on to this and to let go of that your bad habits, if you hang on to that bad habit, you don't let it go, then you don't have the restraint to focus your personal power in the direction that's true to the things that you love most. Is this making sense? Is this adding up? I hope this is hopeful, and I'm not just saying the same things that you've heard over and over again. So here are some tips, some ideas to help you think about spending your mental budget, your expenditure of your personal power, and deciding, like an art form, like a fencer who uses his épée, like a diamond cutter who chooses his angle, like a gardener who pulls the weed and decides what he's going to plant. It's your power. You use it the way you want to. And the more you use it, the more you'll notice you can use it, and the more you'll refine the usage to something better and better and better. As in everything, practice makes perfect. The more we practice, the more we have a skill with it. So, number one, have a daily planner of some sort. Sometimes I ask people to buy a big whiteboard and put it up in their office or their home, where they've got free space to write and erase, start over, be creative. Or to have a flip chart. Do you have your own flip chart? You should have your own flip chart. You know, where you've got all that space where you can write things down. I've got those the sticky ones. I've got them in my hallway. You might even see them through the door there. It's a big map of my keynote talk that I'm working on, and it's there, and every once in a while I'll go by and I'll change something or add something, but it's right there so I can see it. Get yourself a flip chart. You deserve one. And a day planner, whether it's written in your phone, on your computer, or all three. I have, and it's right here, it's always right here when I'm doing the RedRoom, because it's always in front of my computer. I'll just show you. It's my work diary. It is a spiral bound notebook. See that? And it has all kinds of things in it. And it just goes one day to the next. And it's always a place where I have to write things down as each day goes by. So there's always a repository for my ideas and my information. And it goes back years and years. So I can always go back and find things. Maybe I don't go back much more than a week, sometimes a year, finding something, but it's there. It's me deciding how I am spending my mental budget, my time, my life. And of course, I'm not an efficiency expert, but I play with the things I want to play with. I hope you do too. So control your attitude and your perception. Think constructive thoughts. Spend your mental budget on things you love rather than things you fear, don't like, find hurtful, or discouraging. And I know that's easy for me to say, right? And it's easy to find healthy, nourishing thought food. It's everywhere, dears. It's up to you to pick it for yourself. One of the reasons why I always like to have several books by my bed where I get to pick the thought food I want that I take into my sleep. Use writing to clear up your logic and to create free mental space for more creative thinking, because once you have a brain dump, you can think better. Stop and replace your bad habits, and that's a decision-making process. You can do it. We know how to help you these days. Avoid the I should do this, I have to do that, I must do this. Those are things that, yes, you need to brush your teeth and floss. Yes, you need to show up at your job. And are there things that you do to yourself where I have to do this? Those people in my work as a marriage counselor where they say, I have to stay married for life, even though they're in agony and their spouse is depressed and the relationship was over 5 years ago, but I have to stay married. Well, do you? Who said? See crises rather than, oh my God. See them as opportunities. Well, what are we going to do? Accept ongoing tasks. Don't resent them. Don't get frustrated by them. Make friends with flossing your teeth. You're going to have to do it for forever. You might as well make friends with it. Plan, organize, prioritize, but not strictly, because we want you to be kind and fun. Don't be a perfectionist. Be human. Chill. Like Jack does. He plays hard and he does real well at it. And I get to go along most of the time, which is fabulous for me. Earn an adequate income. Spend and save wisely. It's what grown-ups do, and it works. Gives you more personal power. Gives you more things to spend your mental budget on, right? But don't worry. Don't spend your mental budget on fear thoughts, because money is arithmetic and decision-making, dears. Don't make it emotional. Plan your week. Have it all. Don't let a week go by where you haven't decided what you want in that week and you place it there. With a pen and paper, solve your problems, brainstorm, set your goals, write down your strategies, etc., etc. Your philosophy. Work in a field that suits you, or volunteer in a field that suits you, or have fun and have a hobby in a field that suits you. Stop TV, partying, and video games. Have healthy fun. Read. If you just need to chill mindlessly, don't watch TV. Work on a jigsaw puzzle. I always put one out for Christmas where we just sit around and work on the jigsaw puzzle quietly and be with each other and talk, you know? Play cards, play chess, Scrabble, or I love the new Bananas game. Chill that way with other people in a warm setting. Get more training for yourself. Spend your mental budget by learning. Find your comfort zone and shine there. Find it and love it and decorate it and design it and form it, sculpt it the way you want it, dears. It's your life. It's your mind. And it all begins with what you spend your mental budget on, what you think about. Nobody can control your mind but you. And that's your freedom. And so what you end up being, looking like, your life looking like, is really a reflection of how you've spent your mental budget. Isn't that terrible? It's so simple and so difficult. I love it. It's the ultimate art form. You know, your mental budget, you don't have to get your paint box and your paper. It's right there. You carry it around with you wherever you go. Thank you, dears. Thank you for tuning into the Red Room tonight. And thank you for thinking about how we find more personal power, how we wield our personal power. You can do it like a blunt instrument. You can do it in obedience to someone else. Or you can do it like an art form, or sometimes clumsy, sometimes foolish. Just be aware more of how you're doing it. Oh, let's see. Thank you, Heather. Someone says, oh, thank you, dears. Thank you for tuning in. It's heartening when I have viewers who care and who are on track with me. Thank you so much for visiting with me at the Red Room tonight. And I will see you next week in the Red Room for week 6 of 6. And the one next week, that's the one where I call it, let's create pictures for your works, for the things that you do in your works to serve the community, to make a difference in the world, from your heart and soul, from your highest self. So I'm excited about talking about that one next week. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And good night. It's me, Heather, in the Red Room, and I'll be here next Wednesday from 8 to 9 o'clock, and glad for you and any of your friends to tune in then. Great Red Room. You've helped me a lot. Oh, make my day, dears. Thank you so much. Good night, dear ones. And I know whoever's watching this in the future won't know, but you know it tonight. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Thank you, honey.